Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here. I'm joined by Sam, and we are talking about Hayao Miyazaki's film *The Boy and the Heron*, also known as *How Do You Live*. It is maybe his final film, though apparently he's announced that he's doing another one now. We don't really know what's going on with that, but I do think it works very well as a send-off if this is his send-off film. I saw it at Chicago International Film Festival. Sam saw it at New York Film Festival. And there's a lot to discuss with this one. There's definitely a lot to discuss. It's very thematically rich, very beautiful. And I think we have slightly differing opinions. So I'll let you kick off.
Yeah, so I didn't really know what to expect. I've seen a lot of his movies. I love them. I grew up on Totoro. That's my favorite of his. I think it's one of the best films ever made, just in general. It's amazing. And I went into this like really thinking it would be my favorite animated movie of the year. It just looked like it would be, and I really liked it, but I didn't quite love it. Like I felt that parts of it were a bit unfocused, and I wanted a little bit more connective tissue between the whole film. And I might need to rewatch it because it is actually more dense and lengthy than I thought it would be. So it's kind of different from what he does normally, because a lot
Oh,
of
it's
things,
very different.
yeah, a lot of things that were being set up in the first act, I was like, oh, I know this is where this is going. I like this. I'm
Hmm.
comfortable with this. He's done this before. But then none of those things ended up happening. So I was a little bit surprised by the tone of the film and the structure of the film. And maybe like that was a bit jarring for me initially. But
Yeah.
one thing that I'm sure we can both agree on is that the design and the animation and the colors are
Oh my God. Yeah.
breathtaking.
I mean,
Like,
even just from the opening with like the
yes,
fire,
every
like
single frame is a painting. I could frame any shot from this movie in my
yeah,
apartment and it would look great. It
yeah,
is one of the best looking
absolutely.
animated movies of all time, maybe like the best Studio Ghibli film visually, or top three.
I mean,
It
the fact that
just
we got both this and Across the Spider Verse in the same year, just as far as like
And they're
pure
so
design for
different in their
animation,
visual presentation. This is like so
but they're both
traditionally
so
beautiful.
excellent.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like so traditionally beautiful and like looks like it belongs in a museum, and Spider Verse is like this inventive,
Like
fun.
pop art, like yeah.
Exactly. It's so awesome. And yeah, I specifically loved like the shots of like trees or a forest, like the
Hmm.
house
It
with the
feels like it's
tree.
breathing and
Yes.
living. Yeah.
My favorite scene in the film involves a scene where the boy goes to talk to the heron, like the first time he
Mm.
confronts him,
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot going on in the scene visually, and there's no dialogue. And there's like a moment when a bunch of frogs envelop him and a bunch of birds circle around. And it's
Yes.
just so beautiful and mesmerizing and just so satisfying from a visual
Yeah.
perspective. So it's moments like those that I really loved the most, where the film kind of exhibited its visual style and didn't, force characters to speak. Those moments to me were the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting, just as kind of like a thematic piece. Like, if we're assuming, that at least he was in the mindset of making this, thinking it was going to be his last piece. And it really does start out like a very conventional Miyazaki film, as you said, to the point where it almost feels like he's kind of like paying homage to his previous work, which I think is really it's an interesting way to begin, especially with where it goes and how he kind of begins to reflect on like the linear passage and structure of time, and how it really is inevitable in the end of that linear structure is inevitable. And it does some like weird like time hopping stuff, and people being in control of the flow of time. And I don't think I entirely grasped everything that it was doing on the first watch, but whatever he was doing, it really worked for me. And I just think it's really cool to see an artist as talented as Miyazaki almost seem to like make peace with his death by like examining time, and death as a consequence of the passage of time.
Yeah, the thing is, I definitely see what you're saying, and I agree with it. It's just when I was watching the film, I wasn't like picking up on a message that really moved me.
Hmm.
I appreciate that he did something fairly abstract
Yeah.
structurally with the film, but I honestly think I would have liked this film more if it was actually about the boy and the heron. And I think that that title is actually pretty inaccurate, because
It
it
is How Do You Live.
it is very much How Do You Live. If that was the title, I would have gone in expecting something more abstract and more about
I'm too
virtue.
fair. That is the title.
It
They
is
just
the title.
dumped the title
The
down for us
change is
Americans.
weird, and I don't know why they did it. I
It's
think,
just for, I think, the English release, if
I
I'm correct.
guess, but it's weird because the Heron character, who I loved that character, was actually not in the film
Here's the thing,
that much.
that's where the film was weak for me. I didn't like all the comedic stuff.
That's so interesting. It wasn't that it was comedic. I just liked the relationship there, and I was really expecting the second the Heron popped up, I was like, oh, that is a reincarnation of his mother, and that would have been absolutely what it was in like a 2000s or 90s Miyazaki movie. And I was like, I figured it out within the first 5 minutes. I'm so smart. Look at me being a brilliant genius. And then it just
It goes
really
in very different directions.
it goes in a very different direction, and I didn't dislike that direction. I just think it kind of like what I felt that it was unfocused, and that maybe that was the point. Maybe it was meant
I
to
mean,
be
it's an abstract piece.
branching off of the
Yeah.
imaginative nature of this kid, and sort of understanding the compression and tension with all of this emotions happening at once,
Hmm.
specifically surrounding his mother. And I think that by using this journey and by exploring the passage of time and by having the pacing be sort of in and out, I thought that that was an excellent representation of that. But I personally wasn't affected by that as much as you were. And
Mm.
and maybe this is traditional of me, but I think I would have preferred a movie more centric around the boy and the heron. But I do appreciate the direction that this went in, and I understand why he did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about death a lot more than you do, I think. Um I and just, we're all gonna die, and that's just I think that I think is a very much at the forefront in my mind, and just thinking about a lot of the themes that this film is representing, about how the passage of time is just going to be this inevitable countdown clock to when we're all dead and we're never going to feel or experience anything ever again. And I mean, I just think that's, we're each going to experience a different, like, this is just something that I think was always going to speak more to me, with the themes that he was handling. And he did so in a way that, again, really didn't entirely connect with me until I sat with the film and gave it a bit of time to breathe. Which is why I would recommend seeing it again. I mean, I haven't seen it again, but I think that I will gain a bit more from
Yes,
a second
I
viewing.
absolutely think a second viewing is kind of necessary.
Essential,
I don't
honestly.
think is the case with most of his movies.
No, and I think that that's kind of nice, because I like films that, like, I can enjoy on one watch, but I know are going to
Hmm.
like, rise in value the more I see them.
What's your favorite Miyazaki film? Is it Spirited
I
Away?
maybe I'm honestly not sure. It might be
Okay.
The Wind Rises, honestly. I like
Okay.
that a lot.
The Wind Rises and mine's Totoro. There. That's what you need to know going into this movie. If The Wind
Yeah.
Rises is your favorite, then you're gonna like this more than someone whose favorite is Totoro. I
Sure.
think.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. 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 I think
And
that's a
it's not
solid
to say that
comparison.
Totoro doesn't explore heavy themes.
Yeah.
It just is more traditional
It's
than
more of like what you think of when you think of Miyazaki.
right, exactly.
So, which, yeah, but I don't know. It's just it's a really it's really interesting conceptually, I think, more than anything, and it's
Yes.
something that I want to spend a bit more time engaging with. I don't think that it's entirely like I can entirely focus all of my thoughts on it after just one viewing, even though I know
Mhm.
that I liked it a lot, and I know I liked a lot of what Miyazaki was doing with it.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm still not able to fully discuss it and analyze it properly
Yeah.
without having seen it a second time.
You could do a video essay when you can rewatch it because I think that there's definitely a lot to
I
explore with it.
could. Do I want to put in the effort into it? No. But
Well, I
maybe
will
maybe
say
we
there is
do
one thing we
a
can
video.
talk about,
Yeah.
which is I think they're called the Wara Wara, the Wama. I don't the little
Oh,
marshmallows.
the little creatures.
They're the best. I
I didn't
love
care.
them.
I didn't care. I didn't like all the whimsical stuff.
Those were my favorite parts.
So Wind Rises and My Neighbor Totoro.
There you go.
So yeah, I like. There's so much to talk about this film, but I think it's fine if we leave it there,
Yeah, I'm
because
struggling because the thing is, there this movie is different from the expectation of it.
it's
I just
really
remember
dense.
it's also different because a lot of people at the beginning of the year were predicting this to get a Best Picture nomination.
Yeah,
And that's
it's an abstract animated,
right.
like,
It's not what people thought. Like if this was more like Totoro,
yeah.
Ponyo, maybe it would be a animated feature frontrunner. in a
Yeah.
different year because Spider-Verse was too big. But like
Yeah.
maybe it could have beaten like Encanto or something. But or
Yeah.
Pinocchio. But like I feel like it's different from what people think. And I think a lot of reactions that I've seen love the beauty of it. They love the styling. The music is wonderful. The
Yeah.
sound.
Joey
The
Shinshu.
sound
Yeah.
really was a standout to me. Because
Yeah.
there are certain things in this. These are really subtle things, like when he first gets to the house and he, walks around barefoot, and the floor is like
Yes.
wooden, and like the sound of his feet walking on the wooden floor, like there's a distinct feeling that from that and that you feel from it. And it's moments like those in the film that I really thought the sound design was utilized so well, and the music is really wonderful. It's pretty subtle and minimal in certain aspects of the film, which I really appreciated. It often doesn't tell you how to feel, which I think is another reason why it's more abstract than most of his movies. As much as I loved the beauty of the film, the visual style, the way it sounded, and the way it was scored were all absolutely miraculous. And I did mostly like the story. I just wanted a little bit more centralized around the main characters.
Sure.
And as much as I can appreciate what it's doing thematically, and I can see how you like really were affected by what it was saying, at the end of the day, I suppose that it didn't hit me as much, or at least won't until
Yeah.
I watch it again and understand it further.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, again, there's just a difference in how different audiences are going to engage with the film. But I think that there really is a lot to love here, even if, the abstractness isn't going to be for you, or if you don't entirely, love any piece of like the story or anything like that. Like, I think there's going to be something for everybody. Like, even my dad, who I saw it with, never seen a Ghibli film. Like, it hates, anything where he has to read subtitles because he, like, I don't know, just never did it, whatever. Like,
I
even
hope he
he
has a
liked it.
conversation with Bong Joon-ho.
But, like, even he liked it. Like, he still enjoyed it and, like, was able to gain something and just find something out of it, right? And I think that that's, like, what's really magical about this film is I don't see anybody disliking it. I think there's going to be something there for everybody, which is nice. As far as rating, I'm sitting at probably a 9.
I'd say 7.
All right. As far as awards,
Animated feature.
animated feature, maybe a score.
Yeah, I think it could, if it gets on the short list, like there's a chance, but it could easily just not make the short list.
Right. I mean, the thing would be like there's narrative around Tishiishi. It's like his last work, and like it is an excellent piece of composition. I mean, it would be worthy, and like if Ghibli and like GK like if they can get that narrative out that this is like his last piece, never been nominated before, and he's had this incredible body of work over the course of Miyazaki's career and collaborations with them. Maybe
We'll see.
I could see it, but I'm not really expecting it or predicting it really at this point. So, but animated definitely happening. It's not winning.
Yeah, I don't think it would get anything else.
No, I agree. So I think that's it. Those are our thoughts on The Boy and the Heron. And we are gonna have plenty more conversations coming from film festivals, plenty more reviews. Gonna have like a review every day this week, if not like 2 reviews a day. It's gonna be a lot. Plus Gotham Awards, like plus
yeah?
all these other things. Lots of fun stuff. But until next time, thank you everybody for watching. You can support these SAG strikes in the description as well as following us on social media if that is something that you're interested in. And until next time, stay safe everybody, and goodbye.